You were never the loudest voice in the room. You didn't fight to be seen. You didn't interrupt to be heard. And for a long time, you may have wondered if that was a weakness. In a world that celebrates noise, speed, and dominance, calmness is often misunderstood. Silence is mistaken for passivity. Stillness is confused with fear. But what if your calm was never weakness? What if it was discipline? What if it was self-mastery? What if it was the quiet strength of someone who knows who they are? Power does not always shout. Sometimes power waits. Sometimes power observes. Sometimes power speaks only when it must. Today, we explore why your calm nature was not an accident. It was your advantage. And why, in the long run, it made you stronger than those who tried to overpower the world with noise. Most people believe that power is measured by the intensity of one's voice, by the volume of one's presence, or by the ability to dominate those around them. They think that strength is always loud, always visible, always undeniable. And for a long time, you may have measured yourself against that standard. You may have believed that because you didn't raise your voice, because you didn't demand attention, because you moved through the world with quiet restraint, you were somehow lacking, somehow weak. Yet what those people fail to see, and what you may have discovered in your most reflective moments, is that true power begins within. True strength is never about the chaos you can create in the world. It is about the order you can maintain inside yourself. When you remain calm, you are exercising control over the one domain. No one else can touch your inner world. While the noise of others reaches outward, shaping their surroundings, influencing their decisions, demanding recognition, your strength lies inward. It lies in the ability to see the turbulence around you without being swept away. It lies in the space between stimulus and response, in the quiet pause where most people react impulsively, emotionally, destructively. That pause is where the greatest mastery exists. The mastery that determines the trajectory of your life far more than any moment of external recognition ever could. Control over your inner world does not mean that you do not feel. On the contrary, it means that you feel deeply, fully, but you do not allow those feelings to dominate your actions. You experience anger, disappointment, frustration, fear, grief, desire, and longing, yet you do not surrender to them. You observe them. You allow them to exist without letting them dictate the course of your day, your decisions, your relationships. And in that observation, something extraordinary happens. You gain clarity. You gain perspective. You discover patterns in the chaos that others can never see because they are too busy reacting, too busy performing for the world, too busy trying to drown their own uncertainty in noise. Think about the moments in your own life when you felt tested, when circumstances threatened to push you into reaction. Perhaps it was an argument with someone you loved, someone whose opinion mattered more than anyone else's. Perhaps it was a professional challenge where stakes were high and others around you were panicking, shouting, or trying desperately to assert control. In those moments, the loudest, the most reactive voices demanded attention, yet you found a different path. You allowed yourself to breathe, to feel, to consider before responding. You resisted the urge to dominate with volume and instead acted with intention. That choice, that small but deliberate restraint, altered the outcome. The situation unfolded differently because you were anchored. The power of calmness is not hypothetical, it is practical. It changes the world not by force but by the precision of thought, by the depth of presence, by the quiet authority that comes from self-mastery. Science supports this. Neuroscience has shown that individuals who can regulate their emotional responses exhibit higher levels of prefrontal cortex activity, the area of the brain associated with planning, decision-making, and long-term thinking. These are the people who remain resilient under pressure, who maintain perspective when the world feels like it is collapsing around them. They are the ones who make fewer impulsive mistakes, who respond to challenges with strategy rather than panic. In other words, calmness is not just a moral or philosophical choice, it is a biological advantage. When you cultivate calmness, you are strengthening the neural pathways that allow you to navigate life with foresight, with insight, and with control over what truly matters. There is a subtle beauty in this kind of power, a quiet dignity. While others may seek to be seen, to dominate, to impress, you operate from a place of inner authority. You do not need to shout to assert your presence, because your presence is already undeniable. People feel it even before you speak. It is in the steadiness of your gaze, in the measured pace of your movements, in the consistency of your decisions. They may not always understand it. They may even try to dismiss it. But the truth remains: control over the inner world is invisible to the untrained eye, and yet it is more influential than any outward display of force. The storm may rage, the voices may scream, the chaos may seek to pull you in every direction, but your calm acts like a gravity field, centered, unmoving, unbreakable. Consider, too, the way calmness shapes relationships. Those who react impulsively often push others away. Their intensity, their emotional volatility, their loudness can be exhausting for anyone in close proximity. Calm people, however, draw others toward them. They provide a sense of stability. They become anchors in the turbulence of life. Their opinions carry weight not because they are imposed, but because they are measured, because they arise from reflection rather than compulsion. When someone comes to you with a problem, they may first notice your calm. They may pause, unconsciously measuring themselves against your stillness. That pause, that moment of reflection induced by your presence, is a gift. It is a subtle but profound way in which your mastery over your inner world affects the outer world. The discipline of calmness also protects you from the illusions of the external world. Life is filled with provocations, moments designed to elicit fear, anger, or desire. Social media alone is a constant barrage, pushing us toward comparison, envy, outrage, and reaction. Those who surrender to these pressures are easily manipulated. They act as puppets to circumstance, their lives shaped by the loudest, most immediate demands. But when you cultivate calm, you create a sanctuary inside yourself, a place where thought is not coerced, where emotion is felt but not dictated, where values guide choices rather than impulses. You are no longer subject to the noise of the world. You are a participant in life, not a reactionary. Even in failure, calmness offers an advantage. When others crumble under pressure, your measured response allows for recovery, for learning, for strategy. You are able to analyze what went wrong, what could have been done differently, and how to proceed without the distortion of fear or frustration. History is full of those whose greatest achievements came not in the moments of victory, but in the moments of quiet reflection after loss. In the inner work that transformed defeat into insight, the loud and reactive often burn out quickly. The calm endure, they adapt, they evolve, and in doing so, they accumulate the kind of strength that is invisible at first glance, but unassailable over time. Perhaps most importantly, control over the inner world allows you to act with authenticity. When you are not driven by the need to impress, to dominate, or to be validated, your choices reflect your true self. You act from principle rather than performance, from integrity rather than desperation. Your relationships, your work, your life align with your deepest values. And when life aligns in this way, the world bends around you in ways that are subtle but profound. Opportunities that were hidden from those reacting impulsively reveal themselves. People are drawn to your stability, your discernment, your quiet confidence. Doors open not because you shouted louder than everyone else, but because your presence signals competence, reliability, and depth. Calmness is not a shield from reality. It does not mean avoidance of emotion or challenge. Rather, it is a mastery that allows you to face reality without being overwhelmed by it. It is the ability to feel deeply and respond wisely. It is the courage to sit with uncertainty, to tolerate discomfort, and to make decisions that serve the long term rather than the immediate gratification of reaction. It is a form of intelligence that is often undervalued but infinitely powerful. When you embrace your calm, you step into a realm of influence few ever reach. You begin to realize that the greatest victories are not won in the moment of noise, but in the quiet discipline of the inner world. You begin to understand that the loudest, most dramatic displays are fleeting, while the steady hand that navigates life with thoughtfulness and self-control leaves a legacy far beyond any applause. And so, each time you pause before reacting, each time you breathe through frustration, each time you choose reflection over impulse, you are not merely surviving, you are asserting a power that cannot be taken from you. It is yours because it comes from mastery of the one thing truly under your control: yourself. Most people have been taught to believe that attention is power. The louder you are, the faster you rise. The more people notice you, the more influence you are thought to wield. From classrooms to boardrooms, from social media feeds to crowded streets, there is a constant message: if you are not seen, If you are not heard, you are nothing. And for those who are naturally calm, naturally reflective, naturally measured, this world can feel like a battleground you were never equipped to fight. You may have asked yourself, why am I overlooked? Why do my ideas seem invisible? Why does everyone else's voice seem to carry further than mine? And the answer is not what you think. It is not a reflection of weakness or lack of talent. It is a reflection of intention and identity. Loudness seeks validation. It is always striving, always reaching, always hungry for recognition. A person who is loud is often a person who fears being unnoticed. They speak quickly, they interrupt, they insist, they dominate conversations because inside, there is a voice that says, if I do not assert myself, I will be forgotten. If I do not perform, I will not exist. Every shout, every exaggerated gesture, every performance is an attempt to fill a gap within, the gap between who they are and who they feel they must prove themselves to be. They are looking outward for reassurance because inwardly, they feel incomplete. The louder someone becomes, the more fragile the foundation of their self is likely to be. Their identity is dependent on the perception of others rather than the certainty of their own being. Calmness, by contrast, is born from identity. It does not need applause. It does not need acknowledgement. It does not crave the spotlight because it knows its worth independently. Those who are calm have spent time with themselves. They have faced their fears, examined their desires, acknowledged their flaws, and embraced their strengths. They have carved a space within their own minds where validation is unnecessary because they have discovered the truth of their own existence. This truth is silent, but it is immense. It is an anchor in a stormy world, a beacon of clarity when chaos surrounds them. Whereas loudness must constantly seek affirmation, calmness flows naturally from the integrity of being. It is self-contained, self-affirmed, self-sufficient. Consider the difference in a simple social setting. The loud person may dominate the conversation, trying to impress everyone around them, using gestures, volume, and clever phrases to assert relevance. The calm person listens. They watch. They observe the nuances of tone, the expressions, the subtleties that go unnoticed by those caught in the frenzy of self-assertion. And when they finally speak, it carries weight, not because it is loud, but because it is measured, intentional, and rooted in authenticity. People are drawn to it. They notice it because it is rare. It is not a performance. It is a statement of being. History and real life are filled with examples of this principle. Mahatma Gandhi did not march into the world shouting commands. He did not demand immediate attention with forceful rhetoric. He was calm. He was deliberate. He was unyielding in his sense of self and in his convictions. And yet, the world could not ignore him. His calmness, his inner certainty, radiated outward and drew millions to his cause. People felt it before they understood it. They were moved not by the volume of his voice, but by the depth of his presence. And the same is true in everyday life. Quiet leaders, thoughtful thinkers, individuals who act with integrity rather than impulsive display. They often have a power that dwarfs the loud, dramatic figures who seek attention for its own sake. Calmness is also adaptive in ways that loudness is not. Loudness often provokes resistance. It invites scrutiny, criticism, and conflict because it asserts itself against the world, demanding acknowledgement. Calmness, however, invites connection. It allows others to speak, to reveal themselves, to engage without fear of being overshadowed. People are drawn to those who are calm because calmness communicates stability, security, and trustworthiness. It is difficult to manipulate someone who is grounded in their own identity, and those who operate from a place of calm often influence others more effectively than those who try to dominate with volume. Calmness carries authority because it is unshakable, because it is rooted not in the approval of others, but in the unchanging foundation of self-awareness. There is also an emotional advantage to this way of being. Loudness is exhausting, both for the one performing it and for those surrounding them. To constantly assert oneself, to seek validation in every interaction, to measure your worth against the perceptions of others creates anxiety, insecurity, and emotional volatility. Calmness, on the other hand, preserves energy, nurtures resilience, and cultivates clarity. When challenges arise, the calm person does not overreact. They feel the impact, they understand the stakes, they process the emotions, and then they respond with intention. They are not at the mercy of impulse or fear. They are present, grounded, capable of making choices that align with their values rather than the expectations of the crowd. Even in moments of tension or conflict, calmness rooted in identity has power that loudness cannot touch. In negotiations, in arguments, in crises, the loud person risks losing control, escalating the situation, or making decisions driven by ego rather than reason. The calm person, however, remains centered. They understand that their value is not dependent on the outcome or the approval of others. Their sense of self does not fluctuate with external events. This allows them to act with precision, to maintain perspective, and to guide outcomes in ways that are both subtle and profound. Their influence is not flashy, but it is enduring. It grows quietly over time, unnoticed until its impact becomes undeniable. The world often mistakes quietness for weakness, calmness for passivity. Yet, anyone who has experienced the full power of an individual who is centered in their identity knows the truth. Calmness is strength. It is the strength to resist external pressures, to maintain integrity, to navigate life with clarity, and to shape circumstances without losing oneself. It is the courage to be authentic, to trust oneself, and to operate from a foundation that cannot be shaken by noise or performance. Loudness seeks approval, calmness reflects truth. Loudness seeks recognition, calmness radiates presence. Loudness fades, but calmness endures. Understanding this principle transforms not only how you interact with the world, but also how you view yourself. When you stop seeking validation externally and root your sense of self internally, you free yourself from the endless cycle of comparison, insecurity, and fear. You stop measuring your worth by applause, acknowledgement, or recognition. You begin to trust your own judgment, your own insight, your own capacity to navigate life. And in that trust, you find a power that no amount of noise can replicate. It is in the quiet moments, the pauses between events, the spaces where others rush to fill with words and gestures, that your true strength is revealed. People who are calm, who act from identity rather than ego, are not ignored forever. The world eventually recognizes them, not because they demanded attention, but because their presence cannot be denied. Others sense authenticity. They sense integrity. They sense a deep alignment between thought, action, and being. And that alignment is magnetic. It draws opportunities, influence, respect, and connection naturally, without effort, without performance, without the need for validation. Being calm does not mean being passive or unambitious. On the contrary, it is an active mastery of self. It is a conscious choice to act from identity rather than insecurity, to lead with presence rather than volume, to influence through integrity rather than spectacle. And the most remarkable truth is that this mastery is available to anyone willing to pause, to reflect, and to turn inward. It is not something inherited, something displayed, or something granted by circumstance. It is cultivated. It is nurtured, it is claimed, and in claiming it, you step into a way of being that is rare in the world, a way of being that is quietly revolutionary, because while loudness will always seek the next applause, calmness will continue, undisturbed, growing stronger with each day, each choice, each act of self-possession. Loudness chases recognition, calmness rests in the certainty of who you are. And in that certainty, you discover a strength, an influence, and a power that no voice, no shout, no performance can ever replicate. Most of the time, we assume that the loudest person in the room is the one who notices the most. We assume that the one speaking the fastest, gesturing the widest, asserting themselves the hardest must have the clearest understanding, must be the most aware of everything happening around them. And yet, this is rarely the case. Loudness is a form of distraction. Loudness is noise. It demands attention. It asserts presence. It floods perception with so much volume that clarity is nearly impossible. Those who shout the most are often the ones who see the least, because their attention is consumed with performing, with dominating, with proving something to the world. The act of being loud itself narrows vision. It consumes awareness. It blinds. Calm people, on the other hand, are present in ways that others are not. While the world rushes to act, to speak, to be noticed, they pause. They breathe. They observe. Their perception is not fractured by the constant need to assert. It is expansive. It moves quietly across the room, across a conversation, across the layers of experience that most people never notice. They see tone before words. They see hesitation before movement. They see intention before action. And in seeing these things, they gain insight, understanding, and the ability to act with precision that loudness cannot achieve. Consider the subtlety of a negotiation, where everything is riding on perception. The loud negotiator tries to dominate, trying to push their agenda, trying to overwhelm others with force. They measure success by the volume of their argument, the immediacy of their presence. They fail to notice the micro expressions, the slight shifts in posture, the unspoken hesitation that reveals where real leverage lies. Meanwhile, the calm participant listens, they watch, they notice the slight tension in a hand, the pause before a sentence, the fleeting glance toward another party. In those details lie the real truth, the real leverage. While the loud person is performing, the calm person is learning, understanding, and ultimately positioning themselves with wisdom rather than bluster. This is not simply a matter of observation. It is a matter of awareness cultivated over time. People who operate from calmness have trained themselves to pay attention, to absorb details without being distracted by performance, ego, or external validation. They have learned to inhabit a mental space where clarity is possible. Where others react, they respond. Where others assume, they understand. The world is full of subtleties, of unspoken messages, of cues that most people overlook because they are too busy proving themselves, too busy asserting dominance, too busy being loud. The calm see these cues, and in seeing them, they navigate life with a precision that is invisible to the untrained eye, but transformative in its impact. Think about the way children behave. Children notice things adults often miss. They watch expressions, they sense tension, they feel energy in a room. They are naturally calm in their attention, unclouded by ego or performance. Calm adults, in a sense, return to this state of pure observation. They are adults in responsibility and wisdom, yet they retain the childlike ability to notice what is subtle, what is fleeting, what is true beneath the surface. And this ability changes everything. It changes relationships because they understand what others need before words are spoken. It changes decisions because they can perceive the ripple effects that others ignore. It changes life itself because perception is the first step toward action and clarity precedes influence. In the workplace, the quiet observer often outperforms the loudest star. A team member who speaks constantly may dominate meetings, but they rarely see the gaps in strategy, the unspoken tensions between colleagues, the opportunities hidden in data that no one is discussing. The calm colleague notices these things. They synthesize information that others miss. They understand dynamics that are invisible to the noisy, distracted, performance-driven mind. And when they choose to act, their actions are informed, precise, and impactful. Others may have made more noise, but the calm person achieves more results. Even in personal relationships, this quality is transformative. While loudness can overwhelm a conversation, drown out subtle signals, and create misunderstandings, calm attention fosters connection. People who are calm listen not only to words but to meaning, emotion, and intention. They notice hesitation, sadness, joy, discomfort, excitement, and unspoken truth. They see what is happening beneath the surface, and this awareness allows them to respond with empathy, understanding, and insight. Loudness may demand attention, but it rarely fosters understanding. Calmness sees, and in seeing, it creates the possibility for connection, for growth, for resolution. There is also a profound strategic advantage in calm observation. Life is full of moments where impulsive reactions can destroy opportunity. People who respond immediately, who act from excitement, fear, or ego, often miss critical details. They react to the noise, the distraction, the immediate chaos, rather than the underlying reality. Calm people step back, they assess, they wait. They notice the undercurrents that others ignore. And when they finally act, their actions are precise, measured, and often decisive. The loud person moves quickly but blindly. The calm person moves with awareness, and in the long run, awareness is far more powerful than speed. History is filled with examples of those whose calm perception allowed them to achieve extraordinary influence. Great leaders, thinkers, and innovators often operate from a quiet observation that others overlook. They notice what is invisible, they perceive what is ignored, and they act with the insight that comes from seeing clearly. Loudness may draw attention, but insight draws results. The calm person sees what the loud person misses, and in that seeing, they hold the key to influence, impact, and enduring success. In everyday life, this quality is equally transformative. Perhaps it is noticing the subtle shift in a friend's tone that signals a hidden struggle. Perhaps it is perceiving the unspoken tension in a team before it escalates into conflict. Perhaps it is understanding the intentions of others before they are revealed, allowing for wiser decisions. Calmness is the lens through which reality becomes clearer, through which subtle truths emerge, and through which life can be navigated with clarity, influence, and wisdom. What sets calm observers apart is not merely their quietness, but their attunement to life itself. They understand that truth is often hidden in nuance, that influence is often found in understanding, and that clarity is the first step toward power. Loudness demands, interrupts, and overwhelms. Calmness sees, waits, understands, and acts. One is ephemeral, seeking immediate gratification and recognition. The other is enduring, quietly shaping circumstances and people over time. The world may not always notice at first, but results cannot be ignored. Calmness is not passivity. It is not indecision. It is the active choice to see clearly, to notice what others miss, to allow observation to inform action. It is the strength to resist distraction, the patience to gather information, and the courage to act only when the moment is fully understood. Loudness may dominate a moment, but calmness shapes the outcome. It is quiet, but it is deliberate. It is still, but it is potent. It is subtle, but it is transformative. In the end, the ability to see what loud people miss is a gift, a skill, and a form of power that is rare because it requires presence, patience, and attention. It is not learned in haste, nor is it developed through performance. It emerges from a life cultivated in awareness, reflection, and self-mastery. Those who possess it move through the world like deep water, still on the surface, but carrying tremendous depth below, shaping everything around them in ways that are invisible until the results are undeniable. The calm see, the calm understand, the calm act, and in that quiet mastery, they achieve what others cannot, because clarity always outlasts noise. Silence is one of the most misunderstood forces in human interaction. Many mistake it for weakness, for indecision, for passivity. They see someone who does not speak, someone who does not assert themselves, and they assume a lack of power, a lack of presence, a lack of understanding. They fail to see the truth. Silence is not absence. Silence is a mirror. Silence is a space where truth surfaces, where people show who they really are when they think no one is looking. And when you understand the weight of your silence, you understand a power that is subtle, profound, and impossible to counterfeit. When you stop speaking, when you stop filling every pause with words, when you allow the natural rhythm of a conversation or a situation to unfold, people are compelled to act. They are compelled to speak. They are compelled to reveal the thoughts, emotions, and intentions that would otherwise remain hidden. Silence is an invitation. It does not coerce. It does not manipulate. It does not demand attention. It simply exists as a space for others to step into. And when they do, the truth comes forward. Have you ever noticed how people change when someone refuses to react immediately? A heated argument suddenly softens. A boastful claim falters. A secret doubt slips through the cracks. When you are silent, you allow the emotional currents around you to rise to the surface, to become visible in the absence of distraction. Loud voices mask insecurity. Constant words mask fear. Silence unmasks both. It is like holding a mirror up to the room. People see themselves reflected, and they cannot help but respond. There is an ancient wisdom in this. Human beings are uncomfortable with empty spaces, uncomfortable with a pause that is not filled by noise. Silence confronts them with themselves. When you do not react in the ways others expect, when you do not conform to their patterns of provocation or performance, they begin to reveal what they are truly thinking. They speak more freely. They gesture more openly. They act in ways they might have concealed if they assumed they were being constantly controlled or distracted. Your silence becomes a lens through which their inner world is exposed. This is not hypothetical. Consider the way therapists or investigators use silence intentionally. In therapy, a patient often reveals the deepest truths only when the therapist is quiet, only when space is held, only when reaction is withheld. In law enforcement, a detective waits, letting the suspect fill the silence with confession or contradiction. The silence is not passive. It is a tool, a method of perception, a way to allow hidden realities to surface. And in life, your natural ability to maintain silence in moments of tension, curiosity, or observation functions in exactly the same way. Your silence does not need to be dramatic. It does not need to be threatening. It does not need to intimidate. It only needs to exist. When you stop responding immediately to provocation, When you stop performing to meet someone else's expectations, when you stop trying to fill the gaps with words, people begin to reveal themselves. Their masks slip, their insecurities show, their true motivations and desires become visible. And in this revelation lies opportunity, understanding, and influence. Think about personal relationships. A partner may project frustration, a friend may overstate confidence, a colleague may exaggerate authority. Your habitual reactions to these behaviors might have fed the performance, causing escalation or distortion. But when you simply observe, when you simply hold your silence, the performance falters. The true self begins to surface. They speak more honestly, act more genuinely, and often reveal vulnerabilities or truths they did not intend to disclose. Your quiet observation becomes a space of honesty that is rarely available in a world obsessed with noise, approval, and attention. There is also a subtle psychological effect at play. Silence forces introspection. When people speak and you do not react immediately, they encounter their own words before the reflection of your response. They must process what they have said, confront the contradictions, acknowledge the truths, and sometimes correct themselves unconsciously. Your silence allows reflection to occur externally in the world, not just internally in your mind. And through this, the true self is expressed, not because you demanded it, not because you manipulated it, but because you created the conditions for authenticity to emerge. The strategic advantage of silence is immense. In negotiations, leadership, or conflict, those who react impulsively give away power. Words that are spoken too quickly or too emotionally can reveal intentions, fears, or weaknesses. Those who remain silent, who pause, who listen, are not vacating the conversation, they are mastering it. They allow others to expose the architecture of their thinking, to reveal their strategy, their values, their limits. Your silence becomes a quiet power that structures the dialogue without forcing it. It gives you insight into what is hidden and allows you to act with foresight rather than impulse. Even in moments of emotional tension, silence is transformative. When anger, disappointment, or betrayal arises, the instinct is often to react, to defend, to explain. But when you choose silence, you create space for emotions to settle and truths to surface. People who are accustomed to reactive responses may initially feel discomfort, but that discomfort often leads to clarity. They begin to express themselves differently, revealing fears or desires that were masked by the initial conflict. Your calm, silent presence becomes a stabilizing force that allows honesty to emerge where noise would only perpetuate misunderstanding. Your silence also teaches without speaking. In a world that mistakes volume for authority, stillness communicates confidence. Those who are loud broadcast their insecurity. Those who are silent broadcast their certainty. People notice this on a subconscious level. They respond, not with words necessarily, but with actions, with revelations, with adjustments to their own behavior. Your silence is a subtle form of influence. It does not demand compliance. It does not coerce. It allows the truth to rise naturally, revealing what others would have kept hidden if they assumed you were participating in the same performative chaos. There is a humility in this power that makes it enduring. You do not need to dominate. You do not need to intervene. You do not need to force revelation. You simply hold space. You simply allow silence to exist. And in that space, others reveal themselves in ways that are authentic, unavoidable, and illuminating. You become both witness and participant, not by action alone, but by intentional restraint. You shape interactions without interference. You gain understanding without exertion. You wield influence without performance. Even the smallest acts of silent observation create ripple effects. A pause before replying in a conversation can reveal hesitation, insecurity, or truth. A quiet presence in a room can provoke honesty in others, prompting them to reveal what they would otherwise conceal. A refusal to respond immediately to provocation can expose motive, character, and intention. Silence is not passive. It is an active engagement with reality, a way of interacting that demands perception, patience, and discipline. It allows truth to emerge on its own terms. Ultimately, your silence is a reflection of inner mastery. It is a demonstration of the ability to control your impulses, regulate your reactions, and remain centered when others are not. It is an exercise in patience, observation, and awareness. And the consequence of this mastery is profound. Others reveal themselves in ways that reveal the architecture of their minds, the patterns of their emotions, and the intentions of their hearts. In your silence, you find clarity. In your stillness, you find influence. In your restraint, you find power. The world may not notice immediately, but the truths that emerge because of your silence shape relationships, decisions, and outcomes in ways that are quiet but irrevocable. Life has a way of testing those who move through it quietly, calmly, with intention. The storms often come without warning. The moments of crisis, of betrayal, of loss, of pressure arrive like waves that threaten to overwhelm anyone who is unprepared. And yet, the greatest strength is not always found in those who react first, who strike back hardest, who raise their voices above the noise. The greatest strength is often found in those who remain calm, even when the weight of the world seems unbearable. Calmness is not the absence of pressure. It is the ability to endure it, to persist through it, to act with clarity while everything else threatens to fall apart. When you are calm under pressure, you tap into a form of power that few understand. It is a power that is invisible to the casual observer, yet it shapes outcomes in ways that are profound and lasting. People often assume that loud reactions, visible displays, and immediate responses signal strength. They do not. Loudness is often desperation. Immediate reaction is often panic. Calmness, in contrast, signals mastery. It signals that no matter how intense the external circumstances, you are not controlled by them. You are not moved by the noise, the chaos, or the fear. You are anchored in yourself. And that anchoring is the source of enduring strength. Consider a time when you were under immense pressure, perhaps at work, in a relationship, or in a situation that tested your patience and resilience. There may have been voices around you urging you to react, to defend, to fight, to prove yourself. You could have been swept away by that momentum. Many would have been. But you paused, you breathed, you assessed. You measured your options, your feelings, the consequences of every possible action. And in that pause, that space of calm, you discovered clarity. You found the path forward not because you reacted quickest, but because you were steady, deliberate, and aware. That is the unique advantage of calm strength. It allows you to see what others miss in the chaos. Calmness under pressure is also deeply tied to resilience. Stress, conflict, and adversity are inevitable in life. Everyone experiences them. But how we respond to them is what shapes our character and our destiny. People who react impulsively, who are ruled by emotion, often expend all their energy in the first surge of pressure. They burn out. They fracture. They collapse under weight that could have been managed with patience and self-control. Calm individuals, however, conserve their energy. They do not waste it on reaction for the sake of reaction. They endure, they adapt, they absorb the shock of circumstances without losing their footing. And over time, this ability to persist and endure transforms pressure into growth, challenge into opportunity, and adversity into strength. There is a psychological depth to this calm endurance. Neuroscience tells us that the ability to regulate emotional responses and maintain a steady state under stress is linked to better decision-making, improved mental health, and greater overall success. When you remain calm, your brain is not hijacked by fear, anxiety, or anger. Your prefrontal cortex, responsible for rational thought, planning, and insight, remains engaged. You can think clearly, act strategically, and respond intentionally. Those who react impulsively may feel powerful in the moment, but they often make choices that have long-term consequences they cannot foresee. Calmness under pressure allows foresight. Calmness allows strategy. Calmness allows the enduring kind of strength that others can only envy. History is filled with examples of individuals who demonstrated this kind of calm strength. Consider leaders who faced monumental crises, whose countries, companies, or movements depended on their composure. Their ability to remain grounded, to observe without panic, to make decisions from a place of clarity rather than chaos, determined outcomes that would have been impossible for those who reacted with emotion alone. In moments when the world expected noise, reaction, and spectacle, they remained still. They allowed the storm to pass around them while they navigated it from the center of their own being. And the results were transformative. Calmness is not passive. It is active mastery, a quiet force that shapes the world over time. Even in personal life, calmness under pressure has extraordinary effects. Relationships, for example, are tested by conflict, miscommunication, and unexpected challenges. A partner, friend, or colleague may react impulsively with anger, frustration, or fear. If you respond in kind, the situation escalates, creating distance, tension, or even permanent harm. But if you remain calm, if you observe, if you allow space for emotions to settle, people often reveal their true intentions and feelings. Calmness under pressure allows honesty to surface. It diffuses unnecessary tension. It creates a space where understanding, resolution, and connection can emerge. In a world where noise often exacerbates conflict, calmness heals, stabilizes, and strengthens. Calmness also changes perception. Those who are loud under pressure may appear powerful, but they are unpredictable. Their strength is fleeting, dependent on the intensity of their performance. Calmness, in contrast, is steady, enduring, and magnetic. People notice it on a subtle level before they can articulate it. It creates trust. It signals reliability. It communicates competence without boasting. It demonstrates mastery without assertion. Those who possess calm endurance inspire confidence not because they demand it, but because their presence reassures others in ways that words cannot. Calmness under pressure is a language of power that transcends noise, display, and performance. There is a spiritual dimension to this as well. Pressure tests more than skill or intelligence. It tests character, integrity, and self-awareness. Those who react impulsively may succeed in the short term, but they risk compromising values, making decisions that betray principles, or creating consequences they cannot control. Calmness under pressure is rooted in self-knowledge and inner integrity. It allows you to act in alignment with your deepest truths, even when the world is chaotic. It gives you the ability to face uncertainty without fear, to act decisively without haste, and to remain composed when every instinct screams to panic. And in doing so, it transforms pressure into opportunity for growth and mastery. Enduring pressure through calmness is not something that comes easily. It requires practice, self-discipline, and reflection. It demands that you observe your emotions without being ruled by them, that you measure your actions without rushing to prove yourself, that you hold yourself steady when the world around you threatens to destabilize everything. But the reward is immense, the ability to navigate life with resilience, influence, and insight that loudness, haste, or impulsiveness can never achieve. Calm strength is invisible at first, but over time, it shapes the trajectory of your life in ways that are profound and lasting. And in the long run, calmness under pressure becomes contagious. Others notice it, whether consciously or unconsciously. They begin to trust you, rely on you, and seek your guidance because they sense your steadiness. They feel the effect of your composure even before you speak. You create a sphere of stability in chaos. Your calm is not an absence of feeling, it is mastery over it. It is a quiet assurance that life's challenges can be faced without losing yourself. And that is a strength that endures far beyond any immediate crisis, beyond any fleeting moment of drama, beyond any temporary victory achieved through noise or display. Calmness under pressure is not passive resignation, it is active presence. It is the ability to witness the storm without being swept away, to feel the intensity of life without being controlled by it, to act with intention when others react without foresight. It is the power that comes from knowing yourself so well that external circumstances cannot destabilize your inner foundation. Those who cultivate this strength do not merely survive pressure, they transform it into clarity, growth, and enduring influence. Every challenge, every conflict, every high-stakes situation is an opportunity to practice this power. Every moment of pressure is a test of endurance, awareness, and self-mastery. And every time you remain calm while others falter, every time you observe instead of react, every time you act with intention rather than impulse, you reinforce a kind of strength that cannot be shaken by circumstance. It is the quiet, enduring, unassailable strength that defines those who do not merely react to life, but navigate it with wisdom, presence, and clarity. You are calm in a world addicted to chaos. You are quiet in a culture that rewards noise, and that made people underestimate you. But calmness was never absence, it was preparation. You were learning restraint. You were mastering yourself. You were building depth where others built volume. And one